20% DHT gel. Let's talk about it. Okay, I will never-endingly rave about the potency, the power, the utility, the practical application of 20% DHT gel. There is only one company that we know of, which is in the source list, that makes 20% DHT gel, and honestly, it is a godsend. I've been experimenting with my own homemade formulations of high-potency DHT gel, as well as the only sort of commercially made 20% DHT gel. I have a lot to report, but I have a lot to report regarding clients, and specifically four use cases where the utility, right, the benefit of having 20% DHT gel in a TRT regimen is so substantial that it's like not only a no-brainer to have it, but life would be hard without it. We're going to talk about restoration of erectile quality. We're going to talk about estrogen response control. We're going to talk about restoring masculine drive, and we're going to talk about architecting happiness. All things that, when used correctly, 20% DHT gel can do. Let's get into it. Before we start the video, look, Cortex Labs is a TRT guided sexual dysfunction resolution and performance optimization company. Got a range of products ranging from the source list, which gets you any anabolic you can think of, including high potency DHT gel for cheaper, high quality sources. It took me years to put it together. You can get it down in the description of this video. Secondarily, I built a nootropic. My whole history was in the neuropharmacology of nootropics, specifically in consulting CEOs on brain performance. I built one after all that time. It's called Torque. Get it down below. Lastly, I'm a coach on TRT protocol restructuring as well as sexual dysfunction resolution, where we've got a one-off call and a protocol generation, or ongoing 3-month, 6-month, and more one-on-one packages. You can hire me for any of that stuff in under a minute at livecortex.com. DHT, high potency exogenous application transdermally of DHT, is God's gift to man. It is one of the most useful things that I brought into my own personal protocol and that I brought into clients' protocols, whether just dialing in TRT or people with serious sexual dysfunction. DHT is massively underrated as a antidepressant. I mean, it completely changes the game. DHT is massively underrated as a drive for masculine confidence. However, if you understand the physiology of DHT and its place in male physiology, you understand that that is the primary hormone behind your drive as a man, especially to be productive. At the same time, DHT is the active androgen in the restoration of erections in castrated rats. That's been proven over and over again in various studies. In cases of the use of finasteride, which inhibits DHT, you can give a castrated or downed rat, in that case, testosterone, and you don't get restoration of erectile quality, but you add DHT to that case, and then they get restoration of erectile quality. So I'm going to talk about four use cases for high potency DHT gel. We'll talk about dosing. We'll talk about studies and experience. So let's start. All right, number one, right, elephant in the room, DHT gel, 20%. It really actually feels more like an oil than a gel. Has the ability to profoundly restore erectile quality. One of the reasons that it does this is through optimizing penile endothelium, secondarily enhancing and upregulating penile nitric oxide activity. Thirdly, for the smooth muscle relaxation and the ability to trap blood to maintain an erection, DHT itself via androgen receptor binding in the male organ is absolutely necessary. Again, you remove the synthesis of DHT from the picture, which you could do at mild levels with saw palmetto and other DHT or 5-alpha reductase inhibitors, but at very strong levels, drugs like finasteride. And people, a subset of individuals, run into all manner of problems, especially related to erections. First, a paper titled "The Effect of 5-alpha reductase Inhibitors on Erectile Function" has a very critically telling paragraph. With recent discoveries of PDE5 inhibitors as well as nitric oxide signaling in the penis, Park et al. 1999 examined whether DHT influences the erectile response and the mRNA expressions of nitric oxide isoforms in the penile corpus cavernosum of castrated rats. Sham, castrated alone, and castrated receiving T, so testosterone, DHT, or T, testosterone, with the 5-alpha reductase inhibitor, finasteride. Now, both testosterone and DHT in castrated rats effectively restore the erectile response to normal. Nitric oxide activity and the amount of neuronal nitric oxide mRNA were also reduced in castrated rats, but restored by both testosterone and DHT replacement. Now, here's a really telling sentence. Strikingly, there were no effects of testosterone in rats treated with finasteride. Okay, so testosterone didn't upregulate the neural nitric oxide and the penile nitric oxide. What they ended up saying is that castration is actually worse than inhibiting 5-alpha reductase on penile architecture, vasculature, and blood flow. However, 5-alpha reductase inhibition, the inhibition of DHT, ultimately ended up in the deposition of collagen and the destruction of smooth muscle tissue. Which leads us to this paper, which is very similar to the point I'm trying to make. Dihydrotestosterone is the active androgen in the maintenance of nitric oxide mediated penile erection in the rat. This is the basis, this is the breakdown, right? The context of this study. And what they ended up doing was trying to prove which androgen, okay, testosterone or DHT, was responsible for restoring erectile quality and nitric oxide signaling in castrated rats. They say it's been shown previously in the rat castration that it induces loss of penile reflexes, considerable reduction in the erectile response to electric field stimulation of the cavernosal nerve. Both of these effects can be reversed by testosterone replacement. The current studies were performed to determine whether these testosterone effects are mediated via its conversion to dihydrotestosterone or DHT, and what extent the synthesis of the mediator of penile erection nitric oxide is affected by castration and androgen replacement. So what they found is in castrated rats, this electrical field stimulation that was like inducing an erectile response, the castration effect had reduced erectile response by 50%. 50%. They found that testosterone restored that decrease, of the electrical field stimulation induced erectile response in castrated rats. Testosterone restored it to normal. However, they say when given finasteride, so here's, about 5-alpha reductase inhibition just being thrown in here. When finasteride was given to these testosterone treated castrated rats treated with testosterone, erectile response was not restored. Okay. Well, what does that sentence alone delineate for us? It very fucking clearly says that in the case of 5-alpha reductase inhibition, that testosterone alone, which people are going to find all over the place getting on TRT after being on finasteride and having PFS, does not fix the problem. And they go, DHT was as effective as testosterone in restoring the response to electrical field stimulation in castrates, and this effect was not decreased by finasteride. So DHT itself overrides the negative inhibition of actual DHT from 5-alpha reductase inhibitor finasteride. They end up concluding these results show that DHT, all right, conclusively, boys, this has been studied over and over again, is the active androgen in the prevention of erectile failure seen in castrated rats, and suggests that this effect may be mediated at least partially by changes in nitric oxide synthase levels in the penis. But what the other overarching sort of undertone of this is that you can restore erectile quality with testosterone in castrated rats because of its testosterone effects on nitric oxide, et cetera, but also to the conversion to DHT. But you can't restore erectile quality in castrated rats or rats given finasteride with just testosterone. You need DHT. This is why this is titled Dihydrotestosterone is the active androgen in the maintenance of nitric oxide mediated penile erection in the rat. Let's shift to how this matters relative to 20% DHT gel. In these cases of down sexual function, whether it's induced by PFS or not, it doesn't matter. DHT is still necessary for the male organ to function correctly. Maybe you can get that via enough DHT converting from your TRT, right? And this is one of the reasons people use cream, because the erections are usually, if the dose is right, pretty crazy on cream. 3 pumps of cream a day and my erections are nonstop. Well, yeah, it's transcrotal cream, right? The testicular skin has a lot of 5-alpha reductase enzymes, so you're converting disproportionately to DHT versus estradiol, which is why that's a good modality. Cream works well. At the same time, I have rubbed 0.5 milliliters twice a day, 0.3 milliliters 4 times a day. Those were the 2 protocols of DHT 20% gel. It's really like an oil on the shaft. Okay. On the shaft. Now, I don't typically have erection issues unless I dose too high, like on a cycle, and I don't control estrogen. Or if I change a TRT protocol, there's a 4-week lag period where things are inconsistent. However, the use of 20% DHT gel, regardless of the scenario, makes my erections pulse and just stay hard. In some cases, to the point where after ejaculation, I still have an erection. right? Which is a fucking unheard of because prolactin is usually supposed to shut that down. With enough DHT, it's out of control. I have had to use DHT in these cases of changing protocols when erections were hit or miss because things are rearranging. Sure, could have taken Cialis, whatever. I'd rather just, use it from the hormones perspective, but it shows how powerful DHT is and its very critical role, underrated role, a role which, a lot of the hair loss guys suggest doesn't exist, of DHT and erections. So again, number one, I just wanted to sort of prove that. And again, I've done videos on clients with PFS that are using 20% DHT gel. It's restoring the random erections, nighttime erections, and everything. All right, so that's number one use case, restoration of erectile quality. Boys, DHT 20% gel, I don't even think it's underrated at this point. You guys all know I've been raving about it for a while. People understand. Yes, it's the active androgen for erections. Estrogenic response control. All right, number two, estrogenic response control. This is the second use case for 20% DHT gel or high potency DHT gel, however you end up, formulating it. Listen, we all know that DHT derivatives like Masteron have estrogen reducing effects. DHT derivatives like Primobolan have estrogen reducing effects. They work differently. Primo turns into an intermediary which inhibits the aromatase enzyme, whereas Masteron blocks estrogen receptors and also inhibits the aromatase enzyme. Proviron is a very, very mild AI and then provides some of that AR activation and DHT-like effect, which somewhat inhibits estradiol at the genetic level. But really, the mechanism for this, the mechanistic basis for this, is the antagonism of estrogen's effect at the gene expression or transcription level by dihydrotestosterone. This paper, it's titled Evaluation of Androgen Antagonism of Estrogen Effect by Dihydrotestosterone. What the findings suggest in this study is that the mechanism of DHT antagonizing estrogen's effect in the organ system does not involve inhibition of the synthesis of estrogen, meaning it's not an aromatase inhibitor. But it appears to occur by decreasing estrogen-induced RNA transcription at a point that is subsequent to the estrogen receptor binding. So basically, as I've described before on live streams, what DHT allows to have happen is that estrogen activates estrogen receptors, but then the signal just gets terminated, right? The signal for you responding to estradiol and having estrogen-like symptoms or estrogen-like effects, if they're positive or negative, has to do with the RNA transcription. This is all gene activity. But if you can sever that gene activity by using dihydrotestosterone at a point that's subsequent or sort of after the estrogen receptor gets bound to by estradiol, well, you sever that estrogenic-like effect. Now, let's talk about experience. My experience, my client's experience, all mirrors this. If we take high-potency DHT with TRT but no AI, eventually, this takes longer than an AI. It takes 3 days usually, 3 or 4 days, depending on the dose of DHT. Eventually, you start to get AI-like effects, and those effects can take the estrogen too low or create a feeling in which estrogen is too low, but the serum might still be fine. This is likely via the gene expression action inhibition of DHT, its antagonism of estrogen gene expression. Where's the practical utility in this? Well, if you can't take AIs, you can't dial them in, you're having a hard time dialing in on TRT. You need high androgens, but to function good and have energy, but estradiol is problematic for you, but AIs make you feel fucked up where you can't go on 70 milligrams a week because you have no anabolism and you don't feel good. I mean, this is common in people. The answer to that is exogenous DHT. It works. It will control the estrogenic effects. It gives you more confidence, masculinity, all the other positive benefits of DHT. And it's pretty hard to crash estrogen. You know what I mean? After a while of too high dosing, you have to find your dose. You might have some low estrogen symptoms for a brief period after which you bounce back real quickly because DHT not staying in the system very long. It makes it next to perfect for estrogen action control. Third use case for high potency 20% DHT gel is restoring masculine drive. Listen, I'm just going to give anecdotals on this. When I take Proviron at high doses and when I take DHT, it is a profound difference than just TRT. Okay. The high potency androgen receptor activation, particularly in the brain, and how that cascades, especially with DHT, the production of neurosteroids, how it affects dopaminergic neuron transmission in the brain, and how that subsequently lands you in a place of stoic calmness and confidence. But pursuing goals as a result is profound. DHT, if you give a non-productive man who isn't working on goals in his life and isn't pushing forward dihydrotestosterone, that man within weeks, probably within days, is going to be a completely different man. Yep. He's going to be more productive. He's going to pursue goals. He'll write goals down. Yeah. You're not, I like to say this to people. You're not a lazy asshole. You just don't feel like an animal. DHT is the missing link in those cases to make you feel like an animal. The masculine drive, which is drive for males, is masculine drive. Like the ability to get things done and the want to go and pursue leveling up in life is a masculine trait. Yes, females have this to an extent, but this is predominantly a masculine trait, to want to go like this. That's not what I want to go like this. Want to go like that. So a little subliminal messaging there. Perhaps a Freudian slip. Okay, so restoring masculine drive with the use of DHT gel, it works. It works. It works. You can take a guy who's downed in the area of productivity and the inclination to get things done and be assertive, takes DHT, suddenly all of that is resolved. Feels like a different person. What the hell happened, right? It's just DHT. That's what it does. Certain hormones have certain responses in our body, man. DHT is responsible for our masculine drive. There is no question about that. Lastly, last use case, right? We're going to go over this super quickly because this is important, although I would argue a degree less important than these other things, but still important. Architecting happiness. One of the other things that we all notice when we take DHT is that we're happier. We're in a better mood. DHT itself has been studied as an antidepressant. It produces or induces antidepressant, sorry, that was definitely cat hair, like activity. Personally, and with clients, we're all happier. We're all more focused. We're all more driven. But generally speaking, we're happier. We interpret things in the environment better, stronger, with more emotional maturity, with more psychological resilience when the DHT is active. Life can get you down regardless of your hormonal state. However, having the right hormone profile dramatically changes your response to these things. DHT is like a happiness nootropic. Okay. It does all these other things too, but it really does set the man up probably through the restoration and then continued preservation of his masculine drive. And then the reward, the dopamine reward from taking action, it restores masculine drive and therefore happiness, but also has other neurotransmitter and neurosteroid-like effects, which produce happiness in the male brain. There is much more to talk about regarding DHT. I'm going to be bringing on a client that is recovering greatly through the use of high potency DHT with Proviron and HCG from long-standing PFS, but also we're noticing interesting other stuff happening like hair growth, which is totally counter to what we know. Also, though, on the mood side, the productivity side, the drive side, there's a lot to explore there. So we'll be doing a full breakdown of that when my client is ready to do that. But also, I see all of these things over and over, and I wanted to make clear for people, if they're in cases of deficiencies in any of these things, 4 solid use cases for high potency DHT gel. I won't be running out of it anytime soon. The moment I get somewhat low, I'm going to start fucking panicking and I'm going to get more. All right, as I said at the beginning, look, Cortex Labs, my whole job as a coach is to fix people's TRT protocols. I mean, that is 99% of consulting and coaching these days. We got 2 different options. One, you can hire me for TRT protocol restructuring. I'll fact find you, almost annoyingly, on a call to figure out what's wrong, and then I will build a protocol for you to fix your TRT experience. Book that in under a minute, livecortex.com. Secondarily, longer one-on-one packages. These are for serious sexual dysfunction where we need multiple protocol adjustments. It's going to take time to get certain compounds. I need to be hearing from you every 3rd day or so. I'm constantly on my off time thinking about your protocol, architecting the perfect resolution to your problems. 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. If you've got the budget and you're a serious individual, hire me. It takes a minute at livecortex.com, and all the coaching options, the prices, the breakdown, the process is all on the website. We'll be on the fact-finding call as soon as tomorrow. If you need to go out this stuff alone, which some people are going to want to do, just get the source list, because there you have the raw ingredients, including actual high-potency DHT, which you cannot get anywhere else. Also, though, access to testosterone of all esters, other anabolics. I mean, if you want to run some other anabolics, even some sketchy ones, well, go ahead. It's up to you. Be safe, but the options are there. HCG for a lot cheaper. Access to Proviron, oral DHT, DHT gel, high potency, erectogenic agents, all peptides, cheaper, way cheaper. Vetted sources, full spectrum of anabolic compounds. You can get that in under a minute. It's yours. It's down in the description. It is yours. You have access right away. Go buy it. Lastly, I built a nootropics act. My whole history was in nootropics, consulting CEOs of major companies we all know about. We use nootropics to do that. After all that experience, I built one. It's strong. I think it's the best one out there. I know I'm biased, but you can buy it at livecortex.com or down in the description of this video. All right. brother. It has been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you. I hope you have a great day. I hope you're enjoying your week. Much more content coming soon. Live stream this Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern time. So please be there. An hour and a half of answering questions and talking shop, boys. Like the video, makes a huge difference, all right? If there's anything that you can do for me to repay me for the years of content, I don't need much, but I would like for you to like the video. It would mean a fucking lot, bro. Sub to the channel if you're new. Breakdowns like this and much more all the time, forever in the time continuum. I'd love to see you as a subscriber. Otherwise, kick ass, rock on. It's been great chatting with you. Hope you have a great day. And I'll talk to you boys in the next one.